Hi everyone, Nina here. I've asked some lobby Legend Qualifiers what their absolute top climbing tip was, and today I'm going to share the secrets with you. I was surprised by the variety of advice given by the players, but one tip kept popping up. Make sure you stay until the very end to learn what it is. Tip number 1 is from LiiHS. Lee finished number 1 on the NA leaderboard in Season 1 and is almost always a front page player. Lee also created the famous Twitch bot, Wally, which pulls information from the leaderboards and can tell you the exact position of every top 200 player in every region. Lee's top tip is to learn a little bit about all the different compositions available and what the key cards are for each of them, and be open to playing any of them in a game if the early mid-game shops give you the key cards for those comps. Tunnel visioning on a single comp early on and rolling aggressively for it can lead to disaster and missed opportunities for other comps. Once you choose a composition, it is usually best for an inexperienced player to commit to it. This advice is going to be especially valuable to new players because learning best compositions for each tribe and hero is going to help climb a lot, as well as recognizing key cards to build around. For example, finding an Omega Buster allows you to go for a strong mech build, whereas finding a Goldrun and Baron might allow you to pivot to beasts. There are a lot of resources online that will help you build the best compositions, such as LiiHS Replay, Firestone, and even some Battlegrounds discords where players share their final boards. Tip number 2 is from Educated Collins, a lobby Legend Qualifier and a frequent number 1 player on the NA leaderboard. Collins is known for his great casting skills, his chill streams, and of course his pet balloon. Collins' advice is to always have a viable game plan when you pick a hero and look at the lobbies and recognize who the threats are and what the likely compositions that you lose to are. The best way to climb at high elo is to make sure you do not bottom 4, so when you get a hero or composition that you are not comfortable with, try to play full tempo and create the best odds for getting into that top 4 spots. Colin's advice is really important because a lot of inexperienced players fail to scout the lobby efficiently to try and gain advantage over other players. For example, going for mechs when you're facing against Brukan, or going for poisons when Deathwing is being really strong in the lobby is not going to go well. It's also important to recognize when you can win the lobby or when to just go for top 4, which leads me to tip number 3. Tip number 3 is from Bofur, a super consistent player who's made it into the lobby Legend Qualifiers and who is known for his calm disposition and his cute dogs. Bofur's tip is to realize that not every game is going to be a first place game. Most games have an inflection point where greeding for top 1 becomes suboptimal to playing for immediate tempo. The ability to recognize this point and knowing many accessible outs to beat 1 or 2 more people before dying is key for climbing. Upon beating 1 or 2 more people, it sometimes becomes possible to hard counter the remaining players using tech or utility options to sneak first place. Playing for tempo isn't always giving up. Games change quickly when pivoting for the final turns. Bofur's advice is really important if you want to climb consistently. Some games are just not first place games, and the only thing you can do is to kill as many people as you can as fast as you can so you can get yourself that top 4. If you see a Gallywix with an early Bran and Hogar, you know it's going to be pretty much impossible to win the lobby, so all you can do is kill as many other players as you can and pray to dodge Gallywix until the last few turns. FastEddie, another top Battlegrounds player from NA, known for his super greedy plays and his famous phrase, "If you're not first, you're last, but at least you're fast," also mentions that in the current buddy meta, hero selection is critical. It's important to know early on if you're playing for top 1 or top 4. You need to salvage the bad games to avoid taking big MMR losses as they are tough to recover from, especially when you get to higher MMR and start gaining 60 or less for top 1s and losing 120 for top 8. Tip number 4 is from Tyler, an ex-grandmaster turned a pro battleground player from Netherlands. He's known for streaming for ungodly hours, his positive attitude, and of course, his Jaina cosplay. Tyler's tip is to remind yourself that it is a long-ass marathon and not a sprint. You can't let bad streaks over a few games or even few dozen games get to you. RNG eventually evens out, so if you're good enough, you will eventually make it. So yeah, just don't tilt. This is great advice and something I struggle with personally. I'm sure we all feel super unlucky sometimes, want to punch Bob in the face, but Tyler is right. If you're consistent and don't let RNG get to you, you will climb. Although I think it's still okay to rage a little bit if you get scammed big time. One piece of advice that I think a lot of players will find useful if you're playing to climb is to keep playing while you're winning. and stop if you start losing. This can be hard because you want to regain the MMR you've lost, but the more tilted you become, the more misplays you will make. Tip number 5 is from Sleepy, a top Battlegrounds player from NA who, contrary to his name, is not actually all that sleepy and can play an insane amount of Battlegrounds games per day, most of which are innovative and fun to watch. Sleepy's tip is to play to learn, and climbing will happen on its own. Sleepy thinks that a lot of people who are stuck because of the mentality that in order to climb, they need to play it safe and stick to what they know. In the short term, this is true, but in the long term, this will significantly hamper your learning and growth. Take lines you're unfamiliar with, even if it means you'll mess up and top 8. Eventually, you'll get the hang of it, and then when you actually need that skill, you'll have it. Sleepy's tip is really important because a lot of players who are on a losing streak will fall back on what feels safe to them and don't try new things. It's crucial not to be result-oriented and try to constantly improve. Pick heroes you're unfamiliar with, play compositions you're not comfortable with. By doing so, you will learn them and fill the gaps in your knowledge. You might suffer some MMR losses while you're learning, but in the end, you will climb even higher. Tip number 6 is probably the most important one because 4 top players in the world have actually named it as their top tip. Alucard, another top Battlegrounds player who is frequently seen on the front page of the NA leaderboards, XQN, a Battlegrounds legend from Belarus, frequent resident of #1 spot on the EU leaderboards, ixxdeee, the smooth talker from Luxembourg who won numerous Battlegrounds tourneys, and Educated Collins all mentioned it as their top tip. Their advice is to watch high MMR streamers and try to actively learn and not fall into the same bad habits all the time. Mindless viewing doesn't help that much. It's important to understand the reason behind a top player's play. If you see a top player make a play that's different to what you would have done, you can always politely ask them to explain the reasoning behind it. Most streamers will be happy to help and answer your questions. So that's it. These are the 6 top climbing tips from the Lobby Legend Qualifiers. I hope you find them useful. I want to thank everyone who helped with their advice in this video. I will leave links to their Twitch channels in the description below. If you'd like to see more content like this, let me know in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. And good luck climbing. Bye!